Well, thank you very much for joining us, sir. We are very excited to have you because we're talking about Atmanirbhar, and you have been one of the most driving forces behind building one of the most iconic and significant brands in India. So, what does Atmanirbhar mean to you?
Well, I think a country as big as India should have a very strong manufacturing base.
Mhm.
Unfortunately, we don't have it yet. We have been trying to develop a strong manufacturing industry in India,
Mhm.
but for various reasons, we have not succeeded. And in a country as big as India, and if we had a strong manufacturing base, a large part of all our requirements in the manufacturing area,
Mhm.
including raw materials, components, should normally have been produced in India.
Right.
And we should not have been dependent outside. Of course, nobody can be fully independent
Mhm.
because there are materials which are not available in India. There are certain technologies which have very large economies of scale and where production is in very, very limited number of locations around the world. And so it's not that one should aim at 100% self-sufficiency in everything.
Right.
In fact, during 1950, 1991,
Mhm.
the government had a policy of import substitution,
Right.
that we should become self-dependent
Mhm.
and should not need to depend on imports.
What would be your recommendation on how can India, embark on this path of Atmanirbharta as you understand it?
You know, the Atmanirbharta will follow from creating conditions in India
Mhm.
which allow for manufacturing to grow rapidly, which will create conditions which will attract investments in manufacturing not only from Indians
Mhm.
but from investors all over the world. Because there are many, many areas of technology which are not available in India today, but were outside India.
Right.
And by getting foreign direct investment into manufacturing,
Mhm.
you get the benefit of those technologies, you reduce the import of those components,
Mhm.
and India, in fact, can then become the exporter of many of those components to other places in the world.
How do you see the business landscape evolving post COVID? Do we see, I have been speaking to businesses and they've been talking about greater mechanization, greater use of AI, Internet of Things, to really completely revolutionize the way we manufacture, the way the shop floors are designed. What kind of changes do you anticipate in the where it comes to businesses?
See, I don't think COVID by itself is a disease or I mean, this whole pandemic is something which will revolutionize the whole manufacturing business or doing business.
Mhm.
But what it has done is
Mhm.
it has highlighted many areas where manufacturing it was weak in India. I think we have realized during this COVID epidemic the importance of developing manufacturing much faster. This call of Atmanirbharta
Right.
arose because during the COVID situation, when many countries shut down or reduced their output in the manufacturing sector, they couldn't because of the lockdowns and things people had.
Mhm.
We realized how dependent we were on outside countries for continuing our economic activities in India.
Absolutely.
And I think that realization may not have come that quickly and that strongly in the country, but for the COVID. The
True.
COVID also made us realize that there are different ways in which business can be done.
Is Maruti planning a more larger workforce to be working from home? And what are the changes that you are looking at?
For a manufacturing company like ours,
Mhm.
the scope for working at home is comparatively limited. You
Mhm.
can't make cars by staying at home.
Sure. But your
So,
administration
and
staff,
you can't sell cars by staying at home.
so
You
you
can
don't
do a
think
lot of
much.
things digitally,
Right.
but you still, so we will have to uh, work much more at site.
Okay.
Some activities could be done from home, but they'll be very limited activities. But
Okay.
other improvements and changes will happen, and they will make, I hope, Maruti, along with other manufacturers in the country, much more efficient than they are today. And I think together, then we will move towards a situation where our dependency on foreign imports will lessen.
Okay. So what changes are you specifically referring to in this, which will reduce our dependence on foreign imports?
You know, for example, this whole question of travel.
Right.
I think we have realized that today it's possible to do business,
Mm-hmm.
save a lot of time, save all this cost of communication and cost of hotels and such things
Sure.
by talking like you and I are talking over the digital media.
Absolutely.
I think we have found that digitalization itself leads to efficiencies in many ways which we were not doing earlier.
Mm-hmm.
In the factories itself, people have found ways of increasing the safety of working. And as we are going along, they are making innovations in the factory itself so
Mm-hmm.
that productivity can increase without adversely impacting on safety of people.
Any advice for job seekers out there, people who are out in the job market right now or who've lost their jobs?
I think what this has highlighted is the need for some sort of a social security net in India.
Mm-hmm.
And because of the way the whole economy progressed in the past, the fact that we did not create enough manufacturing in India, that we did not create enough jobs of a regular nature in India.
Sure.
There was a lot of this migrant labor happening, a lot of people who were, let's say, partially employed in the year and who had to move from job to job. I think that situation needs to change.
Mm-hmm.
We not only should have a social security network, but
Mm-hmm.
I think a faster growth of manufacturing will mean many more regular jobs.
Mm-hmm.
And if you have a regular job, I think a lot of these problems will not happen in the future. The people who are seeking jobs today, they are going to go through a hardship period. It's sad. I think the government is doing whatever it can to help people, but obviously, I don't think all people can be fully satisfied.
Right.
And I think society, to some extent, has to come to their help and see that there's not too much suffering of people without jobs. And with that, I think people have to adjust to the fact that we have to get situations created where job creation, largely through manufacturing, becomes much larger in the months to come.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Bhargava, for your time.
Thank
It was
you.
fabulous talking to you. Thank you.
Thank you.